the news tonight, Jordan marks the anniversary of Al-Karama battle. The US President begins a visit to Jordan tomorrow and urges Israel to accept the Palestinians' right to self-determination. A top Syrian cleric is among 15 people killed in a large blast in Damascus, and the UN says it will investigate allegations of a chemical attack in the conflict. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news, and here are the details. His Majesty King Abdullah, the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, led an Armed Forces celebration as the kingdom marks the 45th anniversary of Al-Karama battle. On the occasion, His Majesty received cables of allegiance from senior officials and officers. Khal has more on the celebration.
Jordanians recall a major victory their armed forces achieved in a key battle that was a watershed in the Arab-Israeli conflict. They also remember His Majesty the late King Hussein, builder of the country and Armed Forces Supreme Commander. On March 21, 1968, Jordanian soldiers repelled an Israeli attack on the small town of Al-Karama in the Jordan Valley, whose name means dignity. Several Jordanian soldiers lost their lives in the battle, while the Israeli raid was repelled with heavy losses as the Jordanian army launched an artillery barrage against Israeli tanks. Marking the 45th anniversary of this battle, His Majesty led a celebration held by the armed forces at the Unknown Soldiers Monument. Upon arrival at the Martyrs Memorial, the king was welcomed by a number of royal family members and senior military and civic officials. His Majesty reviewed a guard of honor He then laid a wreath on the monument and recited verses from the Quran on honor of the fallen soldiers. The king also viewed the pictures and names of martyrs inscribed on the monument and the flags of the military units that fought in the 1968 battle. Addressing the ceremony were ex-servicemen and the son of a martyr who pledged allegiance to the Hashemite leadership and voiced determination to press ahead with development to achieve progress and prosperity in the country. School children also performed during the event, which was also attended by senior military and civic officials as well as retired military officers. Khal for the news at 10.
Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour said Jordan's relations with Kuwait have been progressing in various fields and hailed the Gulf Arab state as a democratic role model. He told visiting Kuwaiti Education Minister Naif Al-Hajraf that the two countries had maintained historic ties due to the keen interest of their leadership to cement cooperation. The Prime Minister noted that Kuwait is Jordan's second biggest investor after France and said the kingdom welcomes more Kuwaiti capital. Jordan, Mansour said, boasts an education and higher education system which, despite limited resources, had made major leaps to upgrade the key sector. He reiterated in this context Jordan's pledge to provide education to Syrian refugee children as a basic child right despite the pressures on education resources. The Kuwaiti minister said his country understood the huge strain on Jordan's resources for taking in displaced Syrians, noting the Gulf Arab state had provided aid to refugee hosts Jordan and Turkey. Minister of Education and Higher Education Wajih Awais said Jordan is interested in furthering research and technical cooperation and would increase the number of Kuwaiti students in its universities. US President Barack Obama arrives in Jordan tomorrow as a part of a tour in the region. During his two-day visit, Obama will hold talks with His Majesty the King on Jordanian-US ties and current regional issues. The two leaders will look into ways of deepening the strategic partnership between the two countries and US support for the kingdom's comprehensive reforms. Also high on the agenda are the escalating crisis in Syria and pressures on Jordan for hosting the largest number of Syrian refugees, as well as the Middle East peace process. King Abdullah will stress the pressing need for reviving Palestinian-Israeli peace talks based on the two-state solution, the only means to bring about comprehensive and lasting peace in the region. On Saturday, Obama will visit the city of Petra. The US President delivered a keynote speech to Israeli students saying continued settlement activity is counterproductive to peace. Speaking after holding talks in Ramallah with Palestinian leaders, Obama urged Israelis to accept the Palestinians' right to self-determination. Obama has made clear he is not bringing any new peace initiatives, but instead has come to Israel and the Palestinian territories on a listening tour. Laith Shanqiti has the details in the following report.
Arriving in the West Bank city of Ramallah to meet Palestinian leaders, US President Barack Obama was accorded full honors. On the second day of a landmark trip to Israel and the Palestinian territories, Obama forcefully backed Palestinian statehood.
The core issue right now is how do we get a sovereignty for the Palestinian people and how do we assure security for the Israeli people? And that's the essence of this negotiation.
The US President also voiced opposition to Israeli settlement building, but pressed Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas to drop his demand for a freeze before talks with Israel can resume. Obama said he had been clear with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that Washington did not consider continued settlement activity to be constructive to the cause of peace. But he stopped short of calling for a halt to settlement expansion, only signaling his frustration over the failure of Israel and the Palestinians to find a way to resume talks stalled since 2010.
And I've been clear with Prime Minister Netanyahu and other Israeli leadership that it has been the United States policy, not just for my administration, but for all preceding administrations, that we do not consider continued settlement activity to be constructive, to be appropriate, to be something that can advance the cause of peace.
However, he offered no new ideas on how to get the two sides negotiating again at a time when prospects for a peace deal are grim in a region roiled by the West's nuclear standoff with Iran and the bloody civil war in Syria. Abbas reaffirmed his demand for a settlement freeze, but held out the prospect of a broader peace between Israel and other Arab nations if a Palestinian state was created.
Settlements are illegal and all of the settlements activities are not legal. We hope that the Israeli government can understand this, and we hope that they will listen to many opinions in Israel itself who are saying that the settlements are illegal. We spoke with Mr. President about this and we made our point clear on how we can have a solution.
Coinciding with Obama's visit, sporadic protests had flared in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip this week. Palestinians accuse Obama of not doing enough to rein in settlement building. Underlining the tension, Palestinians in the Gaza Strip fired 2 rockets into Sderot, a southern Israeli town that Obama visited when running for president in 2008. A small Salafi group claimed responsibility for the attack, in which no one was hurt. Obama has signaled he is not carrying any initiatives, but the president said the new Secretary of State, John Kerry, would spend a significant amount of time trying to narrow the differences between the two sides as Washington seeks to move them back to negotiations. Laith Shanqiti for the News at 10.
And in a showcase speech in Jerusalem to Israeli university students, Obama appealed directly to the Israeli people to see through the eyes of stateless Palestinians. He said Israelis should recognize that expanding Jewish settlements pushes against the tide of peace. He urged Israel's younger generation to demand that the politicians take risks for peace.
The only way for Israel to endure and thrive, given the demographics west of the Jordan River, the only way for Israel to endure and thrive as a Jewish and democratic state is through the realization of an independent and viable Palestine. Israelis must recognize that continued settlement activity is counterproductive to the cause of peace, and that an independent Palestine must be viable with real borders that have to be drawn. And put yourself in their shoes. Look at the world through their eyes. It is not fair that a Palestinian child cannot grow up in a state of their own. Living their entire lives with the presence of a foreign army that controls the movements, not just of those young people, but their parents, their grandparents, every single day.
Syrian refugees continue to pour into the kingdom. Armed forces border guards helped more than 1,700 people to cross in the past 24 hours, many of them children, women, elderly people. A number of injured were also among the newcomers. The refugees, who came from several points along the frontier, were offered immediate relief aid and were later transported to the Zaatri refugee camp. Over to Syria, a huge blast at a mosque in central Damascus killed the high-level cleric Muhammad al-Bouti and at least 14 other people. Bouti, believed to be in his 90s, was a staunch supporter of President Bashar al-Assad and the Imam of Damascus' historic Umayyad mosque. State television said a terrorist suicide blast hit the Imam mosque in central Damascus. Residents said the blast hit near a political party office and may have been caused by a mortar bomb. It comes as the United Nations said it will investigate Syria's allegations that rebel forces used chemical weapons in an attack near Aleppo. Zainab Soufa has the story.
It's the National Teachers' Day in Syria. Schools and families remember their lost teachers and students to the 2-year civil war. President Bashar al-Assad showed up at an educational center ceremony in Damascus, paying tribute to them. The war has killed more than 70,000 people, and now investigations are running after accusations of chemical weapons use between the Syrian government and rebels. In an attack on Tuesday, 26 people were killed in the Aleppo district of Khan al-Asal, and the Syrian president's supporters and opponents are accusing each other of firing a rocket laden with chemicals. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon announced that the United Nations will start an investigation mission as requested by the Syrian government. He said the investigation will focus on Aleppo's incident, adding that the UN will be cooperating with the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons and the World Health Organization.
I am, of course, aware that there are other allegations of similar cases involving the reported use of chemical weapons. In discharging its mandate of an investigation mission, full cooperation from all parties will be essential. I stress that this includes unfettered access.
The UN chief said the investigation is a reminder that the international community needs full assurance that the chemical weapons stockpiles are verifiably safeguarded. He again stressed a solution to the Syrian conflict.
I call on the regional and international community to find unity and support the efforts of Joint Special Representative Lakhdar Brahimi to help the Syrian people reach a political solution.
In the latest fighting, rebels overran several towns near the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights in the past 24 hours, fueling tensions in the sensitive military zone. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said rebels had captured 3 villages in the area. Zain Abu Sufa for the news at 10.
Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan welcomed as a positive development a ceasefire call by jailed Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan. But he said the important part would be its implementation. Öcalan ordered his fighters to cease fire and withdraw from Turkish soil. The move is a key step to end a conflict that polarized the country and battered its economy. Farah Ajloni has more.
Jailed Turkish leader Abdullah Öcalan used the Turkish New Year celebrations to order his fighters to cease fire and withdraw from Turkish soil. Öcalan has been held since 1999 on a prison island in the Marmara Sea. Hundreds of thousands of Kurds massed in the regional center of Diyarbakir for the festivities listened to Öcalan's message being read out by a pro-Kurdish politician.
The stage has been reached where our armed forces should withdraw beyond the borders. It's not the end, it's the start of a new era.
The move marks a major step toward ending a conflict that has killed 40,000 people. The ceasefire could cement peace talks with Turkey, with the fighters withdrawing their bases in the mountain of northern Iraq. Truces have been declared and secret talks held with Öcalan's Kurdistan Workers' Party in the past, but expectations are high this time. Öcalan's Kurdistan Workers' Party, known as the PKK, is regarded by the United States and the European Union, as well as Turkey, as a terrorist organization. The group has launched its campaign in 1984, demanding an independent Kurdish state in the southeast of Turkey. In recent years, it has moderated its demand to political autonomy and broader cultural rights. But residents in Istanbul appeared unconvinced that a Turkish ceasefire would hold.
I do not think Abdullah Öcalan has enough power in jail to convince people outside. So I doubt they will listen to him, leave their weapons and get out of Turkey. This will last maybe for a little while, but I do not think the guns will be silenced.
Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan has taken considerable risks since he was elected in 2002, breaking taboos deeply rooted in a conservative establishment, not least in the military, by exceeding culture and language rights to Kurds. Farah Ajloni for the news at 10.
In our sports outlook, it will be an important match tomorrow between the Netherlands and Estonia as their campaign to qualify for the World Cup in Brazil continues. The Netherlands squad have been training, including playmaker Wesley Sneijder, who missed the last 4 matches due to an injury and lack of fitness. The Dutch still had success without Sneijder, drawing with Germany and Italy in friendlies since they crushed Romania 4-1 in Bucharest last year. The Dutch team have 12 points from 4 games and want to secure first place in Group D. Estonia have 3 points. International soccer superstar David Beckham continued the Beijing leg of his China tour with a visit to Beijing's Guoan Football Club. He was cheered by swarms of fans expressing their love for the international soccer celebrity. The former English captain was invited by the China Football Association as China's first international ambassador. Now, the weather outlook. A relatively cold night with light winds. Temperatures will rise slightly tomorrow with 26 Celsius in Amman, but with dry, dusty and windy conditions. Scattered showers are also expected in the evening hours, especially in northern Jordan. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect a pleasant night and a relatively hot day tomorrow with brisk winds blowing dust and rough seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. Now, our top stories once again. Jordan marks the anniversary of the Karama battle. The US president begins a visit to Jordan tomorrow and urges Israel to accept the Palestinians' right to self-determination. And a top Syrian cleric is among 15 people killed in a large blast in Damascus, and the UN says it will investigate allegations of a chemical attack in the conflict. And with that, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Rad Leplouche. Thank you for watching and have a good night.